The bent arm stand is extremely beneficial to building upper body strength, especially in the shoulder girdle and upper back. So don't neglect this exercise. It's a lot harder than it looks. How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan and this is Minus the Gym. And in this video, I'm going to follow up on my beginner parallettes routine. All right, we're going to start stepping into intermediate territory on the parallettes. And the way to do that is we're going to start learning L-sit to bent arm stand. And this is in response to one of the requests that I got on a recent video. I'm going to start off by sharing just a couple tips that really helped me out when I was pursuing this move. And I'm hoping that anyone who's already learning this move and having trouble will benefit from those tips. But then I'm also going to share my whole push routine that I use to achieve this skill. So any of you who are doing a push-pull leg split, or maybe upper body, lower body, you can use this on the push or upper body day, and it will help you get the L-sit to bent arm stand. All right, so let's start off with the tips. And I can say that most likely, if you're already pursuing this move and you're having trouble with it, the most common problem is that when you go to extend your legs in the inverted position, that your legs are going to weigh you down and your feet are just going to come right back down to the floor. And there's really two tips I can give you, two reasons why that's most likely going to happen. The first reason is that you're not leaning forward enough. And it might seem in the beginning like exaggerated, but you really do have to lean your head and shoulders well in front of your hands. It might seem like more than you should have to, and at least that's how it felt to me. But that's the first tip I can give you, is make sure you're really leaning forward and really bringing that upper body in front of your hands quite a bit. And the second tip, which is closely related to that, is you want to make sure that you get your hips high enough before you extend the legs. And the reason for that is actually the same reason why you want to lean forward a lot. It's because where your hands are gripping the parallettes, right around that point, kind of between like your hands and your chest, is your center of gravity. And you want to make sure that you have an even distribution of weight on both sides of that fulcrum of the lever, right? That's how you're going to balance this. Now, if you extend the legs too soon, what ends up happening is you have too much weight pulling down behind you because you're extending your legs more horizontally instead of vertically, and that's going to create an uneven distribution of weight and pull you right back down to the floor. And in the same way, if you're not leaning forward enough, then the same thing's going to happen. You're not going to have enough weight on the front side of your center of gravity, and therefore your legs will just weigh you down and bring you back down to the floor. Now, what about the routine that I used in order to pursue this move? Okay, it is a push routine. It's all pushing exercises, except I want to mention that you can also use this on an upper body day, or if you're doing full body, that's fine too, but it's a lot of work on pushing. So what I did is I used it on my push day, and I was doing a push-pull leg split, and I did it 2 times a week. So I do push-pull legs, and then a day off. I used 3 exercises. The first exercise is what I call modified pendulums. So if you're familiar with the pendulums from the beginner parallettes video that I made, this is a modified version of that. To do the modified pendulums, you want to start off in a tucked L-sit on the parallettes, and then swing your hips back and up, and try to get into a tucked position, kind of like a bent arm stand where you're leaning forward, or your head and shoulders are in front of your hands, you're really leaning forward. Try to stick that position. If it's just for a second, that's fine. And then come back to the tucked L-sit. And you want to do this for reps, but instead of aiming for a lot of reps, you want to instead focus on getting this to a nice slow and controlled motion. I know people are going to ask, how many reps should I aim for? So I'm just going to say anywhere in the 5 to 8 range on these is great. If you can build up to that, because this is about learning how to do them slow and controlled so that you can transition from a full L-sit to the full bent arm stand in the future. I did 5 sets of those, and then I moved on to the second exercise, which is Pike push-ups on parallettes. And in order to do this, what I did is I elevated my feet just a little bit onto yoga blocks. And on those yoga blocks, I got in my best Pike position with my hands on the parallettes in front of me, and then I went nice and deep. All right, so my shoulders were well below the level of my elbows before pressing back up. And when I did these Pike push-ups, I also made sure that I kind of paused in that bottom position, because that bottom position, when you're really deep in it, that's when you're going to be holding the bent arm stand. So you want to build a lot of strength there. I built these up to 8 reps, all right, nice, slow, controlled reps. at least when I'm fresh. I'm sure by the end of the workout, I was probably just doing 5 reps or whatever because, you know, you tire out. But that's what I aimed for, was 8 reps on the Pike push-ups. And then after 5 sets of that, I also did 5 sets of full L-sit. Now, if you can't do full L-sit, I have a tutorial on that, and I recommend you learn the L-sit before you try to pursue the L-sit to bent arm stand. So make sure you check out that tutorial if you haven't learned the L-sit yet. So you can consider that like phase 1 of the training, right? The modified pendulums, the Pike push-ups, and then the L-sit. 5 sets of each, and I did that for, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and I built up to that certain level of strength, the target reps that I mentioned. Oh, by the way, on the L-sit, I think I was holding at least like 12 or 15 seconds on the L-sit when I was doing this. And then I moved on to phase 2. Now, phase 2 is very similar to phase 1, but I just modified a couple of the exercises to make it more challenging. In phase 2, instead of just the standard modified pendulums for reps, focusing on slow and controlled reps, I would only do 1 rep. But what I would do is I'd get my hips up and as stacked as I could to find that balance point, you know, where the center of gravity has an even distribution of weight around it. And once I was in that position, I would just try to hold it. Now, at first, I would only get like maybe 2 or 3 seconds. But as I worked on this, and I especially developed that strength in the shoulder girdle and the upper back, I was eventually able to hold it for upwards of 8 or 10 seconds. So that was my target. Just a good 10-second hold was all I really wanted, so that I knew I'd be ready to move on and extend the legs later. So I did 5 sets of those, and again, guys, 5 sets is just a number that I picked. You could probably get away with 3 or 4 sets if you want to do less volume. What's important is that you build strength. All right, but after those 5 sets, I moved on, and instead of normal Pike push-ups on the Parallettes, I did decline Pike push-ups. And all that means is that I elevated my feet, right? So instead of just yoga blocks, I put my feet up onto a chair, or maybe like the 2nd or 3rd step of a staircase, something like that, just so I could get an even deeper Pike push-up on the Parallettes. Again, just like the previous ones, I built up to 8 reps. That's the top of the strength building range. So once you're at 8 reps, then you know you have enough strength to really do that exercise and make sure the reps are slow and controlled. And after 5 sets of those decline Pike push-ups, I again did 5 sets of a full L-sit hold. And that's just because having the L-sit is important for this transition because that's how you started off. So I just kept practicing my L-sits. Now, phase 3 was pretty much the same as phase 2, except I changed the first exercise. Now remember, in phase 2, I did just 1 rep of the modified pendulum, except I held a tuck bent arm stand, and I held it as long as I could so I could build up that isometric strength. Now in phase 3, I tried to extend the legs. Other than that, everything else was the same. I would do 5 sets of that, and then I would move on to the decline Pike push-ups to make sure I'm maintaining and building strength there, and I would do 5 sets of the L-sit. But if you wanted to, you could probably just do more sets of trying to do the full move, because that's what you're doing in phase 3 is you're trying to learn the full move because now you have the prerequisite strength. So do as many attempts as you want. I typically did 5, maybe a couple more, and get into that tuck, lean forward, get those hips up, and slowly extend the legs. Make sure you do it slowly, and eventually you'll find that you're able to extend them and hold the bent arm stand. The bent arm stand is extremely beneficial to building upper body strength, especially in the shoulder girdle and upper back. So don't neglect this exercise. It's a lot harder than it looks. And also, some people are probably going to mention that you shouldn't let your shoulders dip below the level of your elbows, meaning you should keep your arms at 90 degrees bent at the elbow. But that's true only if you're pursuing a bent arm press. Okay, if you're trying to do bent arm press, then yeah, you don't want those shoulders to dip too low below the elbows because then it's going to be harder to push back up. But if you're only doing a bent arm stand, you're not doing a press, then you really want to let those shoulders sink a little bit. That'll help you hold that bottom position and get into that diagonal, the diagonal handstand, I guess you'd call it, and that's what's going to make you able to hold it longer. So if you have yourself some Parallettes and you want to learn progressively harder skills and exercises on them, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. That way you get notified every time I upload, because I will be uploading more of these videos and building an entire Parallettes playlist. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like, because that helps me out in return. I really appreciate that. And with that said, train hard, eat smart, and I'll see you in the next video. Talk to you later.